I am directing our House committee to open a formal impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. This logical next step will give our committees the full power to gather all the facts and answers for the American public.
So it's official. Kevin McCarthy giving the green light for an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. The House Speaker telling Americans that the GOP has exposed a culture of corruption in the Biden family. The move gives Republicans more power to investigate how Hunter Biden leveraged his dad's brand to rake in foreign cash and whether President Biden was involved. The White House calling it extreme politics, claiming there's no evidence of wrongdoing by President Biden.
There is no evidence of wrongdoing by President Biden because President Biden didn't do anything wrong. And the purpose of what they're doing is a politically motivated, far-right, extreme series of attacks on the president and his family that are not rooted in the truth.
Democrats and the media ready to defend the president.
Oh, my God, really? Oh, my gosh. It's devastating. Ooh, don't do it. Please don't do it.
There is zero evidence of any malfeasance on the part of President Joe Biden.
There's been no evidence, and so they're using this word inquiry.
There is no direct evidence. They would be going forward with an impeachment inquiry based on lies.
The craziest people on the back benches in the House of Representatives are demanding that Kevin McCarthy call for an impeachment. This is the White House's dream.
The impeachment inquiry is absurd. The American people want us to do something that will make their lives better, not go off on these chases and witch hunts.
But could there be one upside for Biden during the inquiry? Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is pointing out that Vice President Kamala Harris could be the president's impeachment insurance.
And I also look and think about who's waiting in the wings with Kamala. And I think you're right in terms of the aptitude, even though she's a lot younger. I think she's basically been his impeachment insurance because people know no matter how bad Biden is, nobody wants Harris. And that's just the reality. And that's a sad situation America finds ourselves in.
Jesse Waters, is it the next logical step?
It is. And it's going to be funny to listen to Democrats say there's no evidence for the next 6 months, because here's just 3 pieces of evidence right here. That's off the top of my head. Okay, so Putin's billionaire buddy wires the Biden family $3.5 billion. And then they sit down for dinner with Joe Biden. And then Biden leaves her off the sanctions list twice. Right there, you could open an impeachment inquiry. Or how about when Joe Biden flies his son to China, he comes back with a bucket of cash and then gets on the, hey, guys, you better pay up the rest or my dad's going to get revenge on you. And what do you know? Joe Biden starts writing the communist Chinese guy's daughter's recommendations to get into Brown. And then they grease the regulatory process so the Chinese can buy an American car company. Oh, yeah, and then Hunter gets that diamond for about $75,000 that he lost. Because if Malia Obama got a diamond and then President Obama went soft on the country that gave it to him, I'm sure that would not be a big deal at all. And then who else do we have? We have Biden flies his son down to Mexico City. Hunter meets with the president of Mexico and Carlos Slim, comes back with money, and then complains, guys, I've gotten all of your clients into the White House to meet with my dad, and you haven't paid me a dime. Where's the cash? They can't answer those 3 situations. So I can't wait till they have to answer about the burner phones, the 20 shell companies, or Joe Biden on a voicemail saying, son, I read the Times piece about your shady deals in China. You're in the clear. Now, how would he even know if he was in the clear if he didn't know what his son did? And how do you not know what your son did if you call your son every day for the last 20 years? Hey, son, how'd you get the Porsche Panorama? Hey, son, where did you get all the money to take me to St. Croix 8 times in a row? Did you know that the Bidens vacationed in St. Croix, notorious tax shelter, 8 seasons in a row? I mean, Joe didn't pay for that. That money was coming from Hunter or from Jimmy. And Jimmy was putting his brother up in a nice Naples resort that he purchased right off the coast. Who paid for that? Jimmy's a scam artist. He doesn't do anything. And then all of a sudden, well, he didn't do anything to return the money. Well, he didn't pop the Chinese spy balloon, covered up for the lab leak. He's been covering up for all the countries that have been paying his family. So they're going to have to answer for all of this. There's a mountain of evidence that they can't confront, and they keep on saying this is the best thing that's ever happened to the Biden White House. I don't think Joe Biden believes that.
That's what I wanted to ask Jessica. Morning Joe says this is the White House's dream scenario. Is that the case?
No, that's a very silly dream to have. I think a dream scenario is you pass a whole bunch of more legislation, you have a resounding victory in 2024, you live a healthy life into your 80s, and you have a great 8 years. That was the dream scenario. That has long since passed as a possibility, and a lot of that is due to the impact of Hunter Biden. But as always, I am thoroughly entertained by Jesse's diatribe, and I learned some new things, but it's strange that members of the Republican Party who serve in Congress don't agree with him. So much so that they're on record saying things like this. David Joyce, Congressman, I'm not seeing the facts or evidence. Dusty Johnson, there's a constitutional and legal test that you have to meet with evidence, and I haven't seen it. Don Bacon, there should be a direct link to the president and some of the evidence. I think we need to have more concrete evidence to go down that path. And then Ken Buck, the time for impeachment is the time when there's evidence linking President Biden. And I don't think that evidence has been presented. Now, these are not people who are Democrats. They're not members of the lamestream media or whatever you want to call it. Those are Republican Congress people. Kevin McCarthy, I guess, has amnesia. He has short-term and long-term. Last Friday, he told Breitbart that there would be no impeachment inquiry without a vote. He also, in 2019, went after Nancy Pelosi, saying if she was going to have an impeachment inquiry without a vote, it would create a process completely devoid of any merit or legitimacy. Well, welcome to the circus, Kevin McCarthy. That's what you've done. Nancy Pelosi did have that vote on October 31st in 2019. McCarthy has made too many promises to too many lunatics. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I hear this Politico's reporting this afternoon that Donald Trump was on the phone with Elise Stefanik, number 3 in the conference, the GOP conference chair, talking about impeachment. He continues to do Donald Trump's bidding. Now, I return to where I started. No one wants an impeachment inquiry. It's never fun. It's not going to help anything. But it is going to show that the GOP is a fiercely unserious party. They have to keep the government open. That should be the priority. You should, I don't know, have some plans to make life better for the American people. But no, you're going to spend the next several months, by the way, collecting evidence. You've been doing that for 9 months already. You just haven't come up with anything.
Where's the diamond?
Because the
Where's the
because,
I wish I
let's
had
get the
it.
judge in, because the evidence that they're looking for, if it exists, it has been blocked from access by
the Biden family and by the White House. Let me just say a couple of things. I want to respond to Jessica and what we heard. You know, they're saying it's not rooted in the truth, that this whole impeachment thing. They went after Trump for lies. Even the Durham report at the end of all of it, after they impeached Trump for Russia collusion and lies, and Adam Sackett Schiff lied to everybody about the fact that I have proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Durham report comes out and Hillary Clinton says, oh, I made it up because I wanted to get the press off my back. And Joe Biden knew about it, and so did Barack Obama. But let's get beyond that. And by the way, the Democrats did a Soviet-style basement impeachment hearing. Give me a break.
What are you talking about?
When they did it in the basement, but I don't have time to go through that with you. Yeah, well, that was the second one.
Where the Chick-fil-A came?
Yeah, now listen. This is an impeachment inquiry. It is not an impeachment. And I liken it to a search warrant. Someone comes to me and says, Judge, I have probable cause. I need a search warrant. I need to execute it to get answers to where I'm headed. That is exactly what this is. This is not the articles of impeachment. This is not the indictment. This is the inquiry. And this inquiry is based upon eminently justifiable evidence. Number one, whistleblowers, FBI partners, emails, bank records, shell company flight logs, Joe Biden specifically. Bobulinski said, a live witness says, not only did Biden know about the business, he engaged in discussions with Bobulinski about the business. Devin Archer, another partner, says he was allowed into the White House, and Joe claimed no role with Hunter's foreign partners. Devin Archer says that's categorically untrue. It was a lie. The pseudonyms. Joe Biden is sending emails from the White House to Hunter Biden under various names about what's going on in the White House. And Schwerwin another partner, visited the White House and the Biden residence 19 times. He was in business with Hunter. And finally, Joe is on 20 calls with Hunter's business associates talking about, of course, the weather. So, I don't agree with these people that say, if you can't kill them, don't go after them. Look, they didn't have a Senate. They didn't go against Trump in the Senate. They weren't able to, but they impeached him twice, and we know that they were absolute lies. And at this point, the irony that there's no evidence is a joke because they're stonewalling it. And the amazing part is it's the House Republicans that are bringing this out and not the Department of Justice, which is also hiding and doing work for the Bidens.
Okay, Greg, you wanted to go first, but I made you wait until the end.
I have so much to say. We don't have much time.
Yes, okay.
You know what they say, payback is a bitch, and this payback is going to be one big Joy Behar. Zero evidence doesn't matter because the first Trump impeachment, there was more evidence for Bigfoot. And the media gobbled it up like a bowl of Xanax and spaghetti. So it's your turn in the barrel. You better get used to it. I'm against impeachment, especially since during the first impeachment, we delayed our COVID response by a month for that. Because the Democrats, they can't do two things at once. They can barely do one thing at once. If you look at the border and you look at crime and you look at the economy. So they completely screwed our country when it came to COVID. Where am I? Obviously, all of the evidence on Trump was coming from Adam Schiff, which he wasn't even able to display. And he got away with that. So if the media cries and the Democrats bellow, I say, to quote Barack Obama, you built that. So STFU. I won't tell you what that stands for, Dana, because you're a sophisticated lady. The fact is, everything that the Democrats accused Trump of, they've done. Corrupt family, Biden. Influence peddling, Biden. Sowing conflict and hate among the American public, Biden. Lying like a Nigerian prince, Biden. So if anybody deserves this, it's him. In prison, I hope he dies. His hair, so he looks better. And I want to just bring us back to the first impeachment where it was about the perfect phone call. Now we know that he was right. That there was something fishy going on with Joe Biden and with the Ukraines, and the Dems was like, oh my God, this. And now we know they're right. That he was right all along. He was wrongly accused. It was the guilty party that then accused him. So you now know that after months and months and months and months of being told that all of Europe wanted the Ukrainian prosecutor out, no one can name these people. They'll come up with one or a few, but they're bogus sources, okay? Joe took credit for that. So again, it's time for him. We need to also stop pretending that Joe and Hunter's relationship is a familial one. It's a financial one, right? I'm on Team Hunter, not Team Joe. Joe used Hunter to make him rich without getting his hands dirty. So let's not obsess on Hunter. Joe's head of the operation. I'm tired of Hunter getting all the blame when Joe's the dude behind it. It's a political version of Paper Moon. Remember that movie, the parent and kid grift? That's what you're watching right now. So I'm here for this. If that makes me a hypocrite, I'm going to revel in it.
The New York Times, you don't have to put it up, but they basically said the possibility of a federal indictment of Hunter stunned the president, yet the bond between him and his only surviving son is ironclad.
It's Gold Bond.
Coming up, Democrats are still trying to lock up the dad whose daughter was sexually assaulted by a biological male.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.